Welcome to this episode of the Water Guys podcast. My name's Louis Borges. Joining me as always, my good friend and co-host, Mr. Shane McCarthy.
Hello. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, sir. Welcome to Daddy Life and congrats on the new one.
Thank you, fine sir. It has been an incredible adjustment. You know, I've been learning to enjoy every single aspect of it, and that's helped a lot. You know, obviously there's some tough times, but the good times outweigh it. So far, it's amazing. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and don't worry, one day you'll sleep again. It'll happen.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, in about 18 years, right?
That's right. Yeah, and then you won't sleep because you'll be worried. So it'll morph. It'll be different. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's perpetually tired for the rest of my life. That's okay.
Yeah, that's good. But anyways, it's a blessing. And today we want to educate people on the term TDS. Some of you may have heard it. Some of you haven't. Basically, it involves total dissolved solids. Yeah. Some of those solids can be good things, beneficial in your water. Some of those not so savory. So we've got a bunch of video clips and imagery to break it all down. We're going to put a lot of info in this episode here today. So let's get started with a quick video explaining the different types of TDS from, distilled water, tap water, mineral spring water. Perfect. And we'll break that all down as well. So here we go. What is TDS?
Hey guys, today I want to talk to you all about total dissolved solids in our water. And so to show the experiment, I have distilled water, reverse osmosis, tap water, and then bottled water, Crystal Geyser brand. And specifically, I want to show you all the amount of total dissolved solids that can be in your water. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because it could be minerals or electrolytes, but it can also contain toxins, pharmaceutical drug metabolites, and heavy metals as well. I'll show you here on the screen. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm going to measure our total dissolved solids for each one. So let's start with distilled water, which I assume should be practically close to 0. Coming back, the level is 3 for distilled water. And this is our reverse osmosis water. 7 for this. So there's hardly any total dissolved solids in the distilled water and the reverse osmosis. Actually, the reason why there's a little bit more in the reverse osmosis is because it's due to the last stage. There are some minerals that are added back into it. All right, now let's compare it here to our tap water, which I assume is going to have a lot of total dissolved solids, including minerals, but also can include drug metabolites and other toxins as well. 104. So you can see the massive difference here. It doesn't necessarily mean that our tap water is bad to drink, but you don't know what's in it. You don't know if there's toxins, or you don't know if there's minerals and electrolytes in it. I'm sure there's a combination of both. All right, now let's move on to Crystal Geyser. Check it. It's got a plastic bottle. So guys, we know when these get hot, there's potential for this plastic to leach into our water as well. So that's another thing that could be considered a total dissolved solid. 111. So actually the highest amount of total dissolved solids is in Crystal Geyser. So guys, I strongly suggest when you're looking at your drinking water, tap water, that's just a bad choice. You really need to go through a filtration system, get distilled water or reverse osmosis. Some bottled water, I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but you don't know what's for sure in it. You want to definitely make sure it's a good quality company that has a very thorough process of, if they do filter water and then add minerals back, then that's okay. That could be a lot of minerals, but it also might not be a good filtration process. There could be toxins in that as well, including the microplastics from the plastic bottle.
So some true, some not so true. We don't recommend distilled water or bottled water.
Yeah.
Shane, what are your thoughts on that when people say, hey, I'm good, I drink bottled water, but it's in glass, things like that?
The cost if it was in glass would be astronomical.
Yep.
And it's inconvenient. but and the plastic, that's kind of a given at this point. How long has it been in the plastic for? What has it had any heat exposure to it? So on and so forth. It's the plastic bottled water. I mean, that's a given. With I think that there's a sweet spot for TDS. A healthy amount, because you do want minerals in your water. And again, we've talked about this before, but it's good to reiterate it. It's not because you're getting your daily amount of minerals from your water. You have to drink something like 32 gallons or something dumb like that in order to get your daily amount of minerals from your water. It's because it creates a foundation and to the structure of the water, so that it's not running through your body and leaching minerals from your body. But then there's a sweet spot for that with minerals that you want. You don't want too little. It's kind of like Goldilocks, right? You want it just right. So there's a good video to show the differences, but it's still very kind of misleading. To someone that doesn't really know total dissolved solids, you're not going to see. You're not going to really understand the difference.
Yeah, for sure.
In that.
And there are different types of things that you will see with TDS, or total dissolved solids. Here's just a few. So they could be good things like calcium, chlorides, magnesium, potassium, but it could also be things like lead, arsenic, fluoride, sulfates, pesticides, pharmaceuticals. You just don't know. When you use a TDS meter, something like this, or if you have a filtration device like one of our reverse osmosis machines that gives you real-time TDS, it's just telling you what is present in the water, but you don't really know if those are good or bad things. And, there's a lot of ways that your water gets contaminated, even after the treatment plant, fertilizer, pesticides, feeding operations, manufacturing, sewer overflow, stormwater, all these things can affect the TDS before it gets to your tap. And we have a couple examples of high TDS water. So for those of you that know, we do sell hydrogen products. We sell water filtration products. We have this 8-stage reverse osmosis machine that has a smart faucet. It gives you real-time results on the TDS. So here's a couple of our clients and what they look like. So here's an example of Acton, Ontario. This is well water. So her TDS in the water before filtration was 137. Now, she purchased our machine with our mineral filter, which will add minerals back in to give you that, hydration benefit, the electrolytic benefit. Now, this is when the
foundation of the water.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is when she first plugged in the machine. So the minerals were reading through at 57. After doing her 20-minute flush of the machine, it went down to around 30. So that, as you mentioned, the sweet spot, that's kind of where I find it should be, because it's a fine balance too of taste and minerality. So, I mean, you take something like this fancy water here, which I won't name names or anything. Not naming names, folks, but you take water like that. And here, I'll actually show you the TDS of something like this. I'll open it up. I got a little beaker here. We'll pour some in. Now, again, most people drink this stuff. It's cold, it's fizzy, it's refreshing. We'll get our TDS meter, run it through here. And I don't know if you can see that value there. It may not show.
280-ish.
Yeah. Now, I've also tested this fancy water, and I've got levels as high as 400 to 600 as well.
Yeah, I've heard. I was expecting 600 to be honest, because I've
and I think it's
before.
because this is in a plastic bottle. I just bought this for demo purposes, but I think a lot of that is the glass bottles seem to have higher concentration. This is also bottled in several different places around the world. It's not at the source from Italy like it used to be. This is now owned by Nestle or some other parent company. It's not. So this
is a very good example of why TDS is very confusing and also misleading. But it's also a good way for us to show an example of like how we know where you want to be with the TDS, what kind of TDS, like your most TDS, as you see in the list, is bad for you, but there is that calcium and magnesium and potassium and sodium, which is from the 8-stage RO system, real, not synthetic minerals that are being added back into here. It's really the Ferrari of reverse osmosis systems. I've never seen one like that.
Yeah. And it's the proportions too. So even though your water may contain naturally occurring calcium, magnesium, potassium, it might be in ratios that are outside of what's actually beneficial or healthy. So the only way to really get a clean slate is to use the highest level filtration, take everything out of the water, and then restructure that and reintroduce minerals. Here's an example of our machine. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the 8-stage RO system also uses the vortex, the streaming, which restructures the water, which is very cool.
That's correct. Yeah, I think I've got a picture of it here I can show. Yeah, so in our filters, the water runs through in a vortex motion vertically through each individual filter. So a lot of people are proponents of structuring your water, clustering your water. Distilled water is dead water. Even the water as it goes through the pipes on the way to your house, it loses that natural energy of the flow. And in fact, I have a video on naturally occurring mineral water and how nature filters it. So let's run that quick clip, and then we'll get your takes on that.
Spring water is amazing because it's loaded with life force, with chi, with minerals of the earth. It's extremely filtered from the earth. I'm sure you've talked about it before. Distilled water is excellent because it is negatively charged, so it's hungry water and it grabs onto toxins. It's also pure H2O. If you have a good stainless steel distiller, you don't have any chemicals. There's no chemicals. All of it is gone. The glyphosate, 80 different chemicals that are found in tap water or even reverse osmosis water in trace amounts, it's all out. Distilled water is very purifying, very cleansing, and you add minerals into the distilled water. That's what I always do. I always add minerals in. Do you want to bring a little bit of life into distilled water? Put some lemon, apple cider vinegar, salt. That's how I get the best of both worlds.
So somewhat true, but again, how much mineral are people adding? You put a couple drops of these trace minerals in your water, you don't know if that's too much calcium, not enough calcium. And in fact, having high TDS water or too high a mineral water actually has problems, and it can cause you, health issues. Here's some of the negative effects. So if you drink extremely high TDS water, if you only drank mineral water every day, again, imagine you're getting more calcium in your body. So this is going to increase your chance of kidney stones, heart disease, diabetes, gastrointestinal issues, stomach pain, diarrhea, even the fact that you may drink less water because the water doesn't taste as good. You can become dehydrated, and that will affect your cognitive abilities. So it's a slippery slope when you're playing with what's in your water and what you're drinking and how much does your body actually need. And, you
really want to find that Goldilocks, that sweet spot of TDS and the types of solids that are dissolved into your water. And, he mentioned about adding salt and lemon into it to bring it back to life. Well, I understand what he's saying there. I don't think it really truly is bringing it back to life. And then, what kind of salt are you adding into it too? You mentioned about adding trace minerals. Some people were adding Himalayan pink salt, but now we're finding out that a lot of Himalayan pink salt brands have a lot of microplastics and aren't really true Himalayan pink salt. And so you're not doing what you think you're doing. You're actually doing a little bit more harm than you think. So that's why actually what I like is there's the Alkaviva H2 ionizers, which really is the best of the best for filtration and ionization, but it's a higher price item. And so what and you're perfect timing for you to take a drink from it. If you're going to bring life back to your water, the Hydro Boost 6000 with the 8-stage RO system with true remineralization and vortex filtration is going to be, from everything I've seen on the market, the most cost-effective way of getting really good, properly filtered water, minerals in your water, and properly structured, and hydrogen.
Yeah.
You know, like it is a very good combination for those that want to really get get that source of properly filtered water and the benefits of the hydrogen.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, everybody's water's different. Everybody's dealing with different things. As we said earlier, this is what Acton, Ontario looks like. We have a client in Texas who has a machine of ours. This is what his water looks like.
Woo.
So his pre-filtered TDS value, 643. So we
That is
all know well
wild.
water typically is a little heavier in the minerals. So it should look like this, 137, not 643. And so I thought, well, okay, people might say, well, they could just be a lot of minerals or a lot of salts. You can't go by that because that's potentially true. So I went one step further and I dug into the EWG water analysis for this gentleman. So this is an area called New Braunfels, Texas. This is the zip code. If you want to know what's in your water and you live in the US, go to EWG's tap water database, put in your zip code. It's going to look like this after you do. It's gonna find your zip. It's gonna say this is the utility. Here's all the cities and the people served within that. So let's take a look at what's actually in New Braunfels water. And the first thing that's always blows my mind is the disclaimer: legal does not necessarily equal safe. Getting a passing grade from the federal government does not mean the water meets the latest health guidelines. That's scary for one. Number two, legal limits for contaminants in tap water have not been updated in almost 20 years. And good point on these EWG people. The best way to ensure clean tap water is to keep the pollution out of the source water in the first place, i.e. filtration. So New Braunfels, there's 29 contaminants. 16 of them exceed the health guidelines set by the EWG. And this is what, 643 TDS looks like, folks. Here we go. So the first set of results. You have your acetic acids, 52 times the limit. The EWG health guide is at 0.2 parts per billion. This was coming in at 10.5. And the potential side effect of this acid is cancer. You go to the next one, acetic acid, side effect, cancer, 188 times over. Another one, side effect, cancer, nitrate, cancer.
Total trihalomethanes, 347 times the amount to this utility. So the legal limit is
80, which is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at some of these other ones, they say there is no legal limit, meaning you shouldn't have any. Like, look at the third one over from the top, haloacetic acids, HAA9, side effects of cancer. There is no legal limit. You should have 0. EWG says at max, you should have 0.6% or of a particle per billion. And this is coming in at 21.5 parts per billion, and it gets worse and worse. Even the trichloroacetic acid, supposed to be 0.1. It's coming in at 5. Again, side effects, cancer. Next page, it goes on and on even more. Side effect, cancer, 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 cancer. 265 times.
And I hate to say it too. This isn't even everything that's in your water too. There's things like pesticides and herbicides that are left out. Pharmaceuticals. It's crazy.
Yeah. So again, too, it's important to know what's in your water specifically. TDS is only telling you half the story. If you have high TDS, it could mean that you just have mineral-rich water, but it could also be everything else that is soluble in the water. There's a lot of
just because you're on well water and you do have minerals in your water does not mean that you're free and safe. You don't have the same issues as municipal water, but you do have issues of your own, and those should be addressed.
Yeah, for sure. There's no way of knowing, and the government isn't legally obliged to tell you, and their limits may not necessarily equal safe limits, because if they set the real health limit, then everybody's water would fail. So they've set a limit high enough that most municipal water sources will fall within that. But as you saw, a lot of those, there is no acceptable limit. So if you got, 1 part per billion or 50 parts per billion, it should be 0. There should be no parts per billion. So even if you remove the TDS and get your minerals in line to the right ratio, it doesn't mean that you're taking out the junk in the water. And a lot of this water, you don't know what's actually in the water before it goes in the bottle too. And then, you know, you have the heat aspect, the leaching of chemicals, and most of the
Yeah.
microplastics in the bottle are already in there before it's even filled. It's the dust that's created when they blow these bottles in the factory. So the microplastics are already in it from beginning. Even if it was bottled and sold the next day, it wouldn't have time for the sun to leach, but you have that microplastic dust that's in the water already.
Yeah,
So
it is. That's what a lot of people will make there. They're like, oh, well, you know, if your filtration is filtering out microplastics, how comes there's plastic in there? So, well, it's the water is passing through at an amount that it's never going to have any plastics leach into the water.
that's right.
From that in the way that it does with plastic bottles.
Yeah. And I mean,
Okay,
even
so
if you look at food production or like milk or how things are made, when you look at these factories, all the raw ingredients are getting piped in through plastic hoses. They're stored in plastic bags. They're in vats made of plastic. They're packaged in plastic, but not all plastics will leach. There's certain conditions required for that to actually happen, i.e., bottles in a case, sitting in sun, in the heat of a truck, in a hot warehouse. A lot of those things will encourage and speed that. And some of this water could be 3 years old. So you talk about the life force water, there is none. This is dead.
No,
This is
it's
devoid
dead.
of life, even if it is minerally pure. And in terms of filtration, this EWG resource, they do have a breakdown of, you know, things like with the different types of filtration. So, you know, people drink out of this. Bear in mind, folks, in these pitcher waters, you're getting about this much carbon in your filter. Skinny little filter. This will improve the taste compared to just raw tap water. It will get rid of some of the smell, and it will get rid of chlorine. Stop there. That is it. And it might get out some other mineral salts that can't go through carbon. But the exception of that, this is not filtering your water. This is giving you a false illusion that your water is better than it was. And I mean, it is better than nothing. But when you have a $25 pitcher versus, you know, $1,000 machine, I'm not saying the price makes it better, but the technology of having 3 to 5 filters, of having oversized filters, of having reverse osmosis type filters that are literally taking everything out, it makes a big difference. So they break down the pitcher style filter, all the things that are missed. Reverse osmosis catches everything. The one thing it said reverse osmosis didn't take out was vanadium, but I have a resource here saying that to remove vanadium, you need number 4, a membrane process like nanofiltration or reverse osmosis. So RO does get out vanadium. And go ahead.
You mentioned about your the parts per billion with the acidic acids and stuff like that. Okay, so what size fit, like what size microns are we looking at with reverse osmosis? Like from, you know, what's that look like?
So we'll give you the full breakdown here. So in terms of the world of filtration, there's many different products, but you have to look at the micron size of what is left in the water. That will dictate what level of filtration you have. So here's a chart basically explaining it. Again, don't go by the look because these are just proprietary, you know, machines by different companies. It's what's inside that makes a difference. So starting off with the sort of sediment removal, you're going anywhere from 50 to 10 microns. Then you have carbon, like I just showed with the pitcher. That'll take you down around 1 micron. Submicron gets you just below that. Ultrafiltration will get you to around 0.1 or 0.01. And reverse osmosis will go down to 0.0001. That is 1/10,000th of a micron. And what does that actually mean? Well, here's a breakdown. So the average human hair is between 50 and 180 microns. So let's call it 100 microns. That would mean that at 100 microns, it is 1 million times finer than a human hair. That is how small we're actually talking about. 1/10,000th of a micron versus 100. I did the math 5 times, moved the decimal enough times. It is 1 million times smaller than a human hair. Then you look at things like beach sand, 90 microns, grain of salt is around 60 microns, a white blood cell, 25, pollen and dust. Dust is about the smallest we can see with the naked eye, around 10 microns. Then you have things like red blood cells. You know, when you cough, the droplet sizes in your respiring, even smaller dust particles, bacteria, wildfire smoke, even viruses are coming in at 0.4 of a micron. So
Yeah,
this is 10,000 times more, or yeah, 1,000 times more than even the smallest viruses. So essentially
yeah.
nothing is left. This is what it looks like in terms of our machine. 99.9% of everything removed. And the minerals we mentioned, it's important to add those minerals back. I'll show you what it looks like on my personal machine at home here. So this is my home machine. So this is how it looks with no minerals. I have very clean water to begin with only 17 TDS. Well, clean or devoid of minerals, one or the other, right? It
Yeah.
may not be clean, but not a lot of minerals. Straight RO, I come out around 3 parts per billion total dissolved solids. And then if I install them, and that even goes down to 2 or 1, the longer I let that run. With the mineral filter, my values come in around 18. So I think that's a safe amount because you don't need much. They call it trace mineral for a reason, right? You don't need much of it. And if you add too much, the water is going to start to taste funny. I mean, try drinking this water flat with no carbonation. You won't be able to get through 5 sips. It tastes disgusting, right?
Yeah.
It's masked by the bubbles and by the fact that you usually serve it ice cold. And I have a video clip here from somebody talking about super high TDS, as if this is some great thing to have, 1,500, upwards of 10,000 TDS in your water. We showed you what the negative side effects are, but beware, there are some brands marketing super high TDS water as if there are health benefits to it. And this guy's, he's showing 2 different brands. So beware of this type of stuff.
So when it comes to super high TDS waters, these are 2 of my favorites. And you kind of get 2 different sensations with super high. Now, super high is 1,200 TDS plus. These are both 3,000 TDS above. Vichy Catalan is salty. It's the sodium. It gives you that savoury, salty taste that you can't really miss. You can't deny. If you can't taste salty in Vichy Catalan, I call this my COVID tester. People that don't react with a shock to Vichy, in my opinion, have taste bud damage that they may not be aware of. So that's my COVID tester. Now, Vichy Celestine is 3,300 TDS. But this is sweet, and that's due to the calcium. So with the super high TDS category of water, you'll get one of them will be your favorite. You'll either love salty or you'll love sweet, or you just love them both because they're completely different. But that's just one of the.
So again, use at your own discretion. Once in a while might not be bad, but I've yet to see the science in what super high TDS gives you versus just some minerality. Your body only needs a small amount. You don't need to be overwhelming it. And again, if you have high blood pressure or on a low sodium diet, you don't want to be drinking water loaded with salt.
No.
It is salt. Your body still reacts to it the same way as regular table salt. So beware of those type of things if you have hypertension and things like that.
I mean, sodium's been salt has been demonized, and we're now recognizing the importance of salt. But it's just, again, there's a balance to it.
Yeah.
and I mean, so, an electrolyte drink, a super salty drink is going to be worth it in some scenarios, but like my wife who's breastfeeding right now, an electrolyte drink is really good for her. An electrolyte drink with hydrogen is even better.
Yeah.
And so that's helping her produce and be able to feed our son. So I mean, that's there it definitely has its use, but I mean, to be drinking that regularly, a high TDS water, it sounds thick, and then it sounds something, like something that your body's going to have to work a lot harder to produce or to work through your body.
Yeah. And again, too, when you're looking at different filtration products, there's a lot of them out there. Do your research, find out what type of filters, what micron level they filter down to, and also look for certifications. NSF is a big one in North America. They're also a good resource to find out what is a safe water filtration system. They do testing. In fact, the supplier that we get our machine from has 52 NSF certifications. They're one of the largest filtration companies in the world. Also, CE is a European safety certificate. No product deemed as a medical product or a water product can be sold in Europe without a CE. So very important. We do have the both on ours, both NSF and CE. And there's a lot of talk about Berkey. People have seen Berkey as a water company that both sells stills as well as filters. But there's a lawsuit going on right now because of the lack of actual testing being done, and also what is being claimed and what is being left in the water is a big problem. So got a couple quick video clips here on what's going on with Berkey, and let's check it out.
All right, everyone. So apparently Berkey is under a class action lawsuit. Obviously didn't know that. So I looked up some information, and here's what I have found so far. I mean, long story short, the lawsuit is basically saying that Berkey claims to filter out certain things in their water, and it actually doesn't. Apparently there have been people that have gotten a Berkey filter, filtered the water, and then tested the water against the claims, and they were not the same. Berkey has made an official statement or reply to these allegations about the lawsuit. Berkey is claiming that there are a lot of counterfeit filters for Berkey, and you can go in, read it yourself, and make the decision yourself. I mean, this is the first time I'm learning this about the water filter. I'm going to do some research and make my best choice, but you also have that choice to do as well. So.
And then this lady does a deeper dive on exactly the specifics of what the first lady was talking about.
3 reasons to stay away from Berkey filters. Number 1, Berkey claims that their filters work for 3,000 gallons. This research on their page, and if you zoom into their lab results, it says that they test for 25 gallons. How? The most I found was them testing for 200 gallons. That's still not 3,000. Someone on my team sent them an email, and they said the full life expectancy is based on these test results. Lies. Number 2, they say they have NSF standard 53 and 42, but they have no NSF certifications whatsoever. The NSF is the gold standard for product testing under water filtration, and Berkey doesn't have one NSF certification. The NSF requires testing until the contaminants break through to give a concise and reliable number. Berkey only tested for 25 gallons. Most of their products are banned from being sold in California because they don't have an NSF certification for lead. Even Brita has this. Number 3, some of their fluoride filters were tested to show that they're leaching aluminum. PubMed shows aluminum links to Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and hyperactivity. Stay tuned for part 2.
And then here's the actual legal breakdown here. So the company that runs Berkey has just decided, due to the legislation in California, they're going to stop selling in California. They didn't change the product or make it better. They just said, "Okay, I guess we're not going to sell in California." And it comes down to independent testing and certification. Their claim is that it's far too expensive for a small business to, have to do certifications and red tape and registrations along with the expense. I mean, we're 2 guys.
I wouldn't say Berkey's a small business at all.
Exactly. We're 2 guys, and every single one of our products comes with third-party testing. It's not impossible. It's about money, and you can make a lot more money if you sell products that aren't tested and don't pay for that. But to your point, they are not a small business.
Yeah,
and
I also disagree with that too, because if you serve a purpose and fulfill that purpose, the profits will come. I mean, if they had just spent the money on getting the proper certification and stuff like that, they wouldn't be on hot water, and they wouldn't be reducing sales like they are now, and they would still be thriving. And here's
the other thing, though. It's almost like they knew, but the fact that their machine puts different things in the water would not actually pass the test.
Yeah, there's definitely that aspect to it, but I find it funny that it says in one sentence, including its flagship Big Berkey system, and then in the next sentence, we're far too expensive for a small business. All right.
Yeah. And then here's another part here. So according to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the filters are basically closer to pesticide than water filter. And for that reason, they are in violation of the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. So the reasoning for that hinges on a pesticide, which is any substance intended for preventing or destroying or repelling pests, including microorganisms. So Berkey is using silver as an antimicrobial in the filter. So to make up for poor filtration or the inability to remove bacteria, they've put colloidal silver in their filters, a heavy metal, to do that same thing. Well, removing bacteria in that way using a heavy metal is more for pest resistance than for human consumption.
Yeah, I know. I'm certainly not against colloidal silver, but not to be used as a water filtration
Yeah, and you're not going to drink 10,000 gallons of colloidal silver water. You're going to use it as a small supplement as directed for a specific purpose.
Yeah,
And
and a
then
specific time.
that's right. Yeah. So so Berkey was basically saying that it's not us. They basically said that, Berkey can get rid of COVID virus, and that's why they're coming down hard on us, right? So you can get as conspiratorial about it as you want,
Yeah.
but in essentially, it's closer to a pesticide. And again, this is another one just saying that anything elements that contain silver are pesticide devices. And since silver is antimicrobial, and so with the new pesticide classification, Berkey products would be required to come with warning labels if they are to be sold in the state of California, right? So, and again, too, your filtration is only as good as the filters. And Berkey does make a filtration system. They also make a still for distilling water. And there's a lot of people that say, I distill my water. It's the best way to go. Here's a video on sort of the myths of distilled water. He got almost all of it right. But at the end there, he does reference Berkey, which we now know is an extreme. And I don't want to crap on any other products. There's a lot of good products in the market. We don't bash other companies, but this is legal information you should all know. If you were looking at buying these companies' products, they're not going to put it on their homepage saying, just so you know, we're getting sued in California. So buyer beware. Okay. We don't say buy one or don't buy one. Do what works best for you, your family, your budget. There's a whole bunch of things that only you will know if it's right for you, but be aware there are these things currently happening. It's not as simple as just filtering water. And to get into the world of distilled water, let's check out this video here.
And you are correct. Yes, consuming demineralized or distilled hypotonic water over a long period of time can cause problems down the road. This is because the minerals in your body's blood and lymphatic system are actually hypertonic. So when you consume distilled or hypotonic water, it's going to want to transfer minerals from your blood and lymphatic system into the hypotonic water, which then you piss out. You're literally pissing away your body's minerals. But it doesn't end there. Once you piss away all your minerals in your blood and lymphatic system, your body's going to want to restore the balance. And it does that by pulling minerals from your bones and vital organs, which then leads to degenerative diseases like osteoporosis. Do you want osteoporosis? No! Exactly. But the good news is the Berkey filter, this is a Berkey filter, have microfilters that remove heavy metals like mercury and lead, but not the beneficial minerals that your body needs. I also installed these optional fluoride filters because fuck that. And then I add a few drops of this to the water I drink. And all it is minerals. Add some ice and I've got a gallon of ice cold mineralized water that I make a habit of drinking every day.
And that is the exact machine involved in the lawsuit. So please beware. It looks like a giant stainless steel canister. Some of them are distillers where they will boil the water. Problem with the distilling is the time as well. To get a gallon of water takes several hours. It literally comes out drop by drop. It's not realistic for a household unless you're very dedicated. Again, then you have to add mineralization. How much? What kind? Are you testing the TDS after you do that? What is safe? What is not safe? And there's a lot more to it. And again, a lot of things aren't removed in the process of just boiling the water per se. And again, you don't have that structure. You don't have that clustering of those elements. And the water doesn't have the healing benefits when it's just bleached, sterilized, boiled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
It's so funny because I laugh about this often and how I used to say water is just water. And I'm pretty sure we've all said that at some point in our life, but it's just fascinating once you start actually learning about the ins and outs of waters. It is very basic, but at the same time, it's complicated. And I can see how complicated it is on the market. And that's why I am, as well as you are so passionate about getting this information out to people so that they can, make a properly informed decision for your water choices for you and your family's health.
Yeah. And we are, as business owners and as product developers, we're looking at what's on the market right now. What are the downfalls? If we were to make a new product, how would we improve that, fix those issues, keep it affordable, and somehow give you a larger benefit? So we did develop the PureTech 8-stage RO system. So rather than the old school ROs with a million filters and tanks and your whole undercounter is a mess, this is sleek. It's all in one unit. It can go above or below the counter. It comes with a smart faucet. 8 stages of filtration with remineralization. This is a tankless system, Italian design, and basically it does it in 3 main ways. So the first filter is your sediment filter. It's going to remove chlorine, silt, VOCs, insect eggs, all the things roughly around 1 micron size. Second one is a heavy duty reverse osmosis filter that will essentially take everything out down to 1/10,000th of a micron. Again, that is 1 million times smaller than the width of a human hair. Filter number 3 is now post-activated carbon. Carbon will improve the flavor, just like these little Brita filters here. So we have that in there as well. But then we also add calcium, magnesium, potassium, and trace mineral salt as an electrolyte. So it's in a small enough ratio where it doesn't make your water taste bad, but you're getting the right amount of minerals and you're getting electrolytes for hydration, to the point that the guy made in the video there. If you just drank distilled water, it will leach the minerals out of your body. And if you were stranded on a desert island with cases and cases of distilled water, eventually you would dehydrate and die because it's taking out more than it's giving you back. And if you are interested in this machine, you can use a discount code WaterGuys10 to save 10%. Again, that's at tech4health.ca, and use the discount code WaterGuys10, and you can see what that looks like.
And that's .ca, right? So that's Canadian pricing. So if you're listening to us, watching us in the US, that's a pretty big discount.
Yes. Yeah, right off the bat, you're saving 25 to 30% based on conversion. This is the machine itself. This is a quick 30-second clip on what it looks like, how it functions. So if you are interested, tech4health.ca. We'll put it on the screen again a little later. But here's the machine we developed. It solves all the problems of the RO world of expensive filters that need to be changed frequently. Ours is a self-flushing system. The main filter lasts up to 5 years. It's all in one, and it remineralizes your water. So you're not adding trace amounts and guessing, is that enough? Is it too much? It's a steady, consistent way to just turn the tap on, see that your water is being filtered, and then enjoy the benefits of that. So here is our PureTech 8-stage RO system.
Never really know what's going on. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want you to know.
So there we have it. That's all I got for today's show. Shane, last word to you, brother.
It's what I say a lot as the H2 water expert, because I have been promoting hydrogen water for quite some time now. And it's very, very, very important that you filter your water properly before adding hydrogen to it, to make sure that the bioavailability doesn't work to your disadvantage by having bad stuff in your water. What I always say is if you don't filter your water, you become the filter for your water, which is just very true. And in this case here, going off what we're talking about, is another thing that I say is if you don't have minerals in your water, you become the minerals for your water. And that applies very much to this episode. So thank you very much for having me, Louis. We will continue this conversation on more and more as we continue on our goal and strive to educate the world on properly filtered water.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the main theme for today is TDS isn't the full story, but it's a good flashing beacon that, as you saw, the high TDS water in that city in Texas was not just heavy minerals. It was every contaminant under the sun, every cancer-causing agent you can imagine. And just because it dissolves in water doesn't mean it's good for you. So it's not the full story, but having a good TDS level is important, but it starts with proper filtration. I think we posted on Facebook yesterday the TDS levels, what that looks like. And somebody commented, TDS equals, we have no idea what's in the waters. And that's effectively true unless you're invested in a proper water filtration system. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. Again, our website is tech4health.ca. All prices in Canadian. So if you're one of our American friends, you will save some money, and use discount code WaterGuys10 to save 10% off everything store-wide. So thank you for that, everybody. We will see you again on next week's show. And looks like Shane checked out early here, but we'll see you again next week, folks. Thanks for joining us.